Bottom line, the film isn't getting any better. Is he regressing?
Yeah, it's a great question. I don't think he's regressing as much as I'm not sure we're putting him in a great situation. And then it's compounding by there are some clear errors. And I think it's because he's playing slower. So to me, it's like the just I mean, just like the one word answer would be I probably yes, right? However, I don't think it's on him, if I'm being honest. The more that I think about it, the more I process it, the more I talk through it. There's a lot of things that I think are leading to this point where it's like it appears like he's regressed from last season.
What are the things that are on him?
The things that are, I guess you could say, the things that are on him are, hey, working your progressions, right? Like the clip they had clipped for the intro where he doesn't hit. He hangs on the sail route, takes a sack when really we need to work sail over to our backside in route, and our backside in route just happens to be DJ Moore, who's then wide open, right? Those are the things that are on him. The reason that it's hard for me to say, like, man, I think Justin's doing terrible is because it's on him, but it's on Luke for the fact that we're now playing with our right foot back in the gun, which makes us exponentially slower through our progression because we just took a kid and we said, hey, you put your left foot back in the gun. You've played from under center. You've done all this stuff that's traditional pro style your entire life. And the year in which we're going to change some things offensive scheme wise is a great time to change your footwork. It's like, I mean, I joked about it, hey, you're going through a remodel. And then that's the time that you're going to tell your wife that you think her fashion isn't very good. High pressure times probably aren't the time to then also like change some stuff or deliver some comments that aren't needed. So to me, it's like, I think the reason he can't get through his progression, to me, a lot of it is because of that footwork change. And I think that's why, there are people on Twitter talking about it all the time. Like, hey, why does his drops look so much slower? A lot of it's not slower compared to other quarterbacks in the National Football League. That's the example they're using. It's slower compared to Justin himself. But why? It's because, hey, he had his left foot back, which he was comfortable with his whole life. And now we're going right foot back, which Luke saw Aaron Rodgers do, because people are going to pretend like he coached Aaron Rodgers to do that, which you guys know. By the time he got to Aaron Rodgers, ain't nobody coaching Aaron, right? Like, that's the reality. So, I think it's a compounding mistake. Those then are, Justin has to own them because the guys are still open in the progression. But to me, it's just so much deeper than that.
When it comes to the drop, and it's been a big topic today, like RG3 did a whole thing on it this morning on Get Up. What are the things that you have your quarterbacks looking at while they're getting to the top of their drop?
The ideal world is one of two things. Like if we're working a pure progression, which means, hey, it's no matter what the coverage is, we're working this guy is 1, this guy is 2, this guy is 3. Ideally, your eyes are getting to the target near the top of your drop. So, hey, let's say just for example, on a 5-step drop, my first 3 steps, my eyes should be manipulating the coverage, meaning, hey, we need to push this strong side safety wider. I need to put my eyes there. Then the last 2 of the 5, it's got to be target acquisition, right? I got to see, hey, what happened to DJ Moore, right? Did he get pressed? Did he fall down? So that's target acquisition. Then boom, that first hit should be on my first progression. If it's not there, you move on, right? In a traditional pro style offense. However, and like I don't want to go off the hinges with footwork talk, but it is so important to understand the right foot back in the gun and how this whole thing started, right? We used to only be under center, left foot back. Think Joe Montana, Bill Walsh, right? Hey, we created the West Coast offense. It's timing, it's precision, right? Left foot's back, 1, 2, 3, balls out, I'm under center. Or it's 5-step, or it's 7-step. Then we said, hey, let's put these guys in shotgun, right? So we backed the guys up. Then the timing clock changed, meaning I used to take a 3-step under center. Well, now I'm in shotgun. I got to catch the snap. Now it's just catch flip. So 3 went to catch flip. If you were in the gun, if you were under center 5, it was in the gun 3. And we did that for a really long time. And then a guy who decided he was going to win 7 championships put his right foot back in the gun. But Dan and Lawrence, why did he do that, right? Oh, he did it because he had Julian Edelman and Wes Welker in the slot who are midgets, right? These guys cannot get vertical on quick game, right? 3-step slants are terrible with those guys. So they put his right foot back in the gun, and they put their outside foot up as a receiver instead of inside foot. So which then made a 4-step slant. We're deeper on the slants, and then Tom, with his right foot back, would go punch flip, which slowed him down because they're now going longer, right? That's where this whole thing started. Then, like everything, people started just doing it because other successful people were doing it. And now we're at this point where we see with the Bears, Justin Fields has his right foot back in the gun. All his receivers have their inside foot up because it hasn't been studied to the detail that it needs to be studied. It's just now, hey, this is what we do. We put our right foot back. And then it's like, hey, we trust these guys to play with feel. And I just don't think that's the answer for a kid who we need his feet to be tied to his progression so that his eyes get there on time. Perfect example of this is, what did we hear the coaches say about that ball that should have gone to the running back on the seam? Right?
And
what
Roshan Johnson close to the goal line,
yep.
right? Yeah.
Yep. And what they say, oh, it was congested. Well, why was it congested? Because guess what? We got our guy with our right foot back in the gun, so his eyes get there a split second too early because you haven't married up the concept with his footwork. So his eyes are there early. He gets off it by the time it pops open. If you would have put his left foot back and gone burning up 5, it's a touchdown pass. He hits his head on the goalpost. Everyone's celebrating in Chicago. We're 1-1, right? To me, these are the kind of things that you can change. People are like, oh, Tim, you're simplifying it. No, I'm not. It really is that simple. Put his left foot back in the gun. That's going to start getting better by week 5. There's a whole litany of other things that we could do. But if you want him to be more efficient come week 5, put his left foot back in the gun, get him back comfortable, tie his feet to his progression, and then judge the kid. Unfortunately, what it seems like we're going to do is keep putting him in ambiguous situations, put his right foot back in the gun, and then run another guy out of Chicago, when the reality is it's probably the executive team, right? It's the coaches over at Hollis Hall that's preventing us from getting an actual evaluation on the kid, if you want my honest, non-ranting take there that went for 10 minutes.
No, I like the ranting takes are really good. I think it's your stock in trade, actually. But and even now, my curiosity is such that even if you were to ask him, what do you want to do? What makes you more comfortable? What foot position feels right and is going to get you physically and mentally in a position to trust what you see? I'm not even sure they've developed him to the point where he with this new group of receivers, there's going to be a right answer. You know, that's what my fear is that there's just a lot of clutter in there now. It's like stuff on your computer, like, you know, cached internet pages and stuff that you need to strip out of there.
But I think, like, isn't that just a perfect example of why you shouldn't change his footwork? Like, you just nailed it. All these new receivers, right? All these new schemes. And then we're going to, on top of it, say, hey, buddy, you got new footwork too. Like, that doesn't make any sense. It's like, you go through a merger and acquisition at work, and then all of a sudden we're also going to change both accounting systems, because why not, right? Like, it just doesn't make sense. You wouldn't do it in any other field, but in the hardest position in sports, you just decided to do it to a kid who's inexperienced. Like, that's where, for me, it just, like, it makes me so mad, because I love quarterback play and I love high level, like, offense, and I love when we play with precision. And unfortunately, all we're getting is, hey, he's late to this progression, or hey, think about last week. What did we talk about? We talked about that sail route to DJ Moore, right? And everybody hammered him on it. But then you start thinking to yourself, why do you think in Justin's head he didn't feel like it was open? And to me, the most rational explanation is, you could say all of a sudden he woke up in 2023 and he sucked. He's been great at football his whole life, but now he stinks, right? You could say that. Or you could be honest and say, hey, it's probably because his eyes are getting there early because his footwork's jacked up. So he's getting to his second progression, the sail, on the timing that you would see the first progression. And he doesn't have enough experience, like, say, an Aaron Rodgers who put his right foot back late in his career, to know that this guy's going to clear open and I should give it a little bit, a tick longer, because my eyes are trying to fool me here.
Hey, can I quickly, Tim, I want to get your definition, the way you use sail route, because it was explained to me as a 3-route concept, almost like a flood the field, where there's a vertical, there is a 90-degree speed cut underneath, and then often a shallow crosser on the same side. So when you say the sail, I think of it as a 3-route concept.
It is definitely a 3-route concept. It's definitely a flood. Let's talk through it, because I want your viewers to be the smartest viewers in Chicago. that first route, the deep one, that's what we call an ultra high. Get through 12. You have the option to extend to 16 and go and hit your head on that back pylon to the side, right? That's the ultra high corner.
Okay.
The sail, 10 to 12 yard speed cut. It's not always 90. Your job is to bend it between the corner and the safety, or the corner who's now in a cover 3
to maintain speed.
Yes, maintain
Okay.
speed, but bend it to space. And then we have the flat route, right?
Okay.
So that is that's the flood that creates the 1, 2, 3. So when we say sail, we're talking about that middle route, which in all reality is the guy who's open. You check the ultra high, right? The same way in college, you used to ask the prettiest girl to dance. Hey, she's going to say no, right? He's probably covered. But just in case she decides to go with you, hey, ask her, right? So we're going to check the ultra high just in case a touchdown's there. It's probably taken. The reality is we're banging that sail route or that flat route 99% of the time.
Okay, good.
Right?
I just wanted to walk it back for a second just to make sure I'm seeing the things properly that you're describing. That's all.
And my thing is I just think his feet are getting to what, the sail, that 90-degree cut like we talked about. We're getting to that when your eyes should still be on the ultra high, which then is giving him the idea that it's covered because the backer probably is still carrying it, meaning he's still running with it before he jumps the shallow, because the shallow hasn't ran to the backer yet. Whereas instead, if you were to go traditional footwork, left foot back, speed 5, right? 1 big 4 quick in the gun like you're supposed to read it. Everybody called this the Flutie concept. Here's a great story. I'm sitting in the Rams locker room. Brian Schottenheimer, right? His dad, Marty, critical to the West Coast. And now what everyone's running. People can say it's this system or this system. It's all a variation of the West Coast, right? And I'm sitting there and I'm like, why is it called Flutie? And mind you, I'm a little self-conscious, right? I went to Fort Lewis College, D2 school. We won like 6 games. I was 6-36. They didn't take me because I was a winner, right? I could throw it all over the yard. I'm sitting in this meeting room with Sam Bradford, Kellen Clemens, Austin Davis. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, we keep saying Flutie, but I, for the life of me, can't figure out why you call this a Flutie concept. It's the concept we're talking about. That's a flood, right? They called it Flutie. Finally, I work up the courage and I go, hey, Brian, why do we call this Flutie? And he goes, oh, because Doug liked it, right? Doug Flutie. You know what I mean? Like,
okay.
That's how dumb some of these concepts are. So to me, it's like, but if you would have backed him up and said, hey, left foot back, burn it up 5, peak the ultra high, and then reset to your sail, guess what? He would have been on time to the sail. So to me, there are things like we talked about. What does Justin have to own? He has to own that he's still not working his progressions correctly. However, like, it's hard for me, like, Steve Harvey has a great quote where it's like, hey, do you get mad at the tree that doesn't grow if you put it in a pot, right? Like, no, right? It can't get its roots down. Like, whose fault is that? The gardener or me trying to put a plant in there, or the tree's fault? Like, to me, that's the marriage of these two things. And unfortunately, I just feel like we're not really giving him a chance to actually evaluate him. And then my big fear is that he's going to be the sacrificial lamb, similar to Drew Lock when Vic Fangio and Pat Shurmur wanted another year. And they said, it's on Drew, give us Teddy and we'll win. And then guess what? Now the Broncos are in a situation where they've got a $250 man and they're also 0-2. So to me, it's like, it scares me where this thing's going.
What do you make of Justin not running in Sunday's game? Because there are times when I'm looking at him like, he's trying so hard to prove that he can win from the pocket. And there's a part of me that's like, hey, man, that internal clock has to go off. And you have to say, hey, it's not happening. I got to get out of here, or I got to chunk the ball so that we don't end up in a negative play.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how much you guys are paying attention to, like, CU right now, right? But Dion, and he talks about, hey, I hear everything. Right? I think sometimes we make athletes out and coaches out to, oh, they're not listening. Justin knows. What's the knock on him, right? Hey, getting out of the pocket and bailing. You can't play quarterback the way it's supposed to be played. That's what it's like. You need someone who looks at you in those quarterback meeting rooms and you go, dude, who cares? You're one of the 32 people on planet Earth who get to run out every Sunday and be a starting quarterback. If you feel it, take off, right? Like, we don't need to coach people to be like people that we've coached in the past, and we don't have to coach them to how we were, right? Like, the reality is Justin isn't going to play quarterback like a majority of NFL coaches quarterback have played the position. However, he has a chance to be so special because of that, because of the ability to extend the play, because of the ability to take off and run. I would tell you, I put 50% of it on coaching. Hey, we want you to stay in the pocket. We want you to get your progression. And the other 50% of it is like, Justin has to at some point rip the Band-Aid off and say, they're going to throw me under the bus at some point. I need to go out here, compete, and win football games, right? Like, that's the reality for him too. So I don't know. I think a lot of this has been coached of, hey, you got to stay in the pocket. And then there's the other portion of Justin wants to prove that he's as good as everyone else from the pocket, which I think he can be. But then you get to this other aspect where it's like, then it's like leads us back to the footwork thing. It's like, well, are we really going to be great from the pocket changing our footwork? There's just so many variables. I'm with you, though. I think we need to see him get out there and break contain, especially on some of these second and long, third and longs where it's like, we got man coverage. Dude, get loose. Go get loose. Get down and protect yourself. The lack of QB runs, I think, is another interesting thing that we haven't really touched on, but that's, I just think, like a whole different discussion of why aren't we seeing true RPOs and why aren't we seeing occasional sprinkled in QB designed runs?